I don't know what he's using that butt. Moving on then. Being raw for the. And that. Put it. Yeah, you know what it was. I didn't know it was you. Nick. Go. Every day.
So what would possess any sane person from taking a cup of brown sugar and eating it raw? Well, there's a distinct connection, scientifically proven, between opiate addicts and sugar. Same with alcoholism. It all has to do with your dopamine. Dopamine, everyone knows. Even Gabby knows what dopamine is, I think. It's our feel-good neurotransmitter chemical. The three top neurotransmitters are dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. Those little dudes transmit messages. Dopamine is our feel-good neurochemical because it's what is... God, I had a brain fart. What's released when we experience something we really enjoy, something fantastic on the tongue, something that's enjoyable to do, something that, that you can never recreate, be it food, drink, experience, love, whatever. Our body releases the dopamine, and we get this wave of just happiness and glee, euphoria. The problem is, opiates do the same thing. Trick the brain into thinking, hey, this is awesome. And so our body releases a shit ton of dopamine. Unfortunately, as physical dependence becomes addiction, the brain becomes rewired. And it's just releasing the dopamine without as much of that feel-good experience. Sugar is something that releases dopamine. It creates a sugar rush. That's our body's way of saying, hey, we feel great. When you combine opiates and sugar, it helps to give the opiate, which has now become just a maintenance thing, not as fun, not as euphoric, more just keeping you from being dope sick. Sugar added on top of it brings more dopamine, ergo, you get more of a euphoria. Scientists also have studied opiate addicts in recovery and found methadone does the same thing. Methadone causes sugar cravings. The problem is that sugar, in turn, creates its own problems. First off, weight gain. Secondly, poor dental hygiene. Now you're talking about people that generally don't have the best oral hygiene to begin with. They're not flossing, they're not brushing twice a day, they're not taking care of their teeth, they're just doing whatever, brushing maybe once a day. But the amount of sugar is creating more plaque, which in turn holds in the bacteria, which then creates cavities. Those cavities can turn into heart disease. We already know IV abusers are at risk for pericarditis, endocarditis, bacterial infections of the heart. So, sugar is not a friend. It also changes the glycemic uptake in addicts. And so a lot of people in recovery will find that they end up being type 2 diabetics if they were heavy sugar consumers while addicted. I mean, face it, most addicts in the height of their addiction are not health food nuts. So your dark green leafy vegetables, no. Sugars, fruits, yeah, maybe. French fries, sugars, yeah. They crave sugary vegetables, carrots, peas, corn, potatoes. Processed foods, also not good for them, full of sugar in places you wouldn't realize. They crave soda. Everyone's got a Mountain Dew or an Orange Pop. Eating sugar outright is probably at the top of the no-no list. Now, a study they did in Sweden showed that ice cream, milkshakes, candy were the 3 top things. Another study in San Francisco in the last 2 years showed that most people that were IV drug addicts in the Tenderloin were pretty much living off of candy. Candy and opiates. That's it. They were maintaining their weight, maintaining their marbles. They did get water, free water. And yeah, their teeth rotted out of their heads, but they got that sugar rush because of the dopamine. Sugar hits the same mu receptors as opiates. So does alcohol. The reason Suboxone, the film, is so handy and better than Sublocade is because it contains Narcan. They did a study with people who were not addicts, who took both forms of naloxone, Narcan, for the purpose of the study, and they found that they had no sugar cravings at all. So then they took the study and began a group taking Suboxone, which contains Narcan. And they found those people had no sugar cravings as compared to the people on MAT or methadone therapy. Methadone hits the mu receptors. So it ended up those on methadone crave sugar. The amount of candy, milkshakes, ice cream, and now raw brown sugar that we've seen Trish consume from waking till the time she goes to sleep should be proof enough for those unsure that she's using. This is not normal sugar consumption. Everyone can have a sweet tooth here, there, maybe all your life. But I bet you it's not as much as this. When we watch Trish every day having Nerds, having Skittles, having licorice, brown sugar for breakfast, milkshakes for breakfast. You know, she'll laugh and put a banana in it and say it's healthy. No, it's not. Here's the thing too, with all these sores, with her home packing job, which I do not recommend, with her puffy hand syndrome, I don't care if you want to believe that it's from washing, check today the 26th, check the episode on Honest Elk, hands are not red, they are puffy. Because in puffy hand syndrome, during our TED Talk, we learned it comes and goes. A chemical burn would not come and go, so leave that as it is. But she's got infections. Yes, she treats with Doxy. The problem is she goes on Doxy, she comes off Doxy, goes back on, goes off. Those short breaks in between allow the bugs that are remaining to become resistant. They're already MRSA. Doxy does not help with MRSA. It keeps it in check. It doesn't get rid of the bug. The bug is in there. That's why they were checking her heart with an echo in the hospital in May. Now you add sugar at the amounts Trish is consuming, and you are increasing the risk of endo or pericarditis exponentially. If you watch Trish chew a hamburger, there are problems with her dentition. I don't know if she has broken teeth in the back or what, but you can tell she eats mostly with the front of her mouth, and there's a motion she does when she's eating that leads me to believe there's discomfort. That is just asking for a heart infection added with this. A good article that's written in layman's terms is from Banyan Treatment Center. Okay, BanyanTreatmentCenter.com. Why do addicts crave sugar? And it goes all into it in easy to understand, not dumb down language, just easy to understand for non-medical people, which is great. Okay, goes into the whole dopamine, into receptors, everything. If you are the scientific or medically trained person, if you run over to pmc.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov, over at the National Library of Medicine, the National Institute of Health has a great study, pretty big on the jargon and microbiology, but relationship between opioid and sugar intake, a review of evidence, and clinical applications. It tells about the Swedish study. It tells more in depth about the pathways. Unfortunately, over time, the addiction causes the neurotransmitter chemical pathways to become permanently redirected. So when they do recover, they often don't have the same enjoyment in life because their dopamine is directed then to receptors that are no longer there. The loss of that enjoyment can sometimes cause people to relapse. It's a major part of human nature to want to feel, euphoric about certain things, not just substances, about food, about something exciting you just tried for the first time, something exciting in life that you experienced. You want that dopamine rush. And when it's taken away or it's dulled, life is a little bleak. There are ways to overcome that, and a good number of addicts have, in recovery, learned different mechanisms to deal with that. But not all, and that's too bad. I can see where that would be really hard to have to live with. It would be a really sucky thing to lose, the ability to have that dopamine rush over certain things. There's also a theory that the sugar addiction can continue after you've recovered and you're not, say, on methadone, but you're on Suboxone, simply from the rerouting of the chemical channels. They're still studying a lot to do with sugar addiction because for a long time it was kind of blown off as some fraudulent cop-out. And now they've learned that no, it is true. There are addictions to processed foods. There are addictions to sugar. If you think about it, we don't understand the majority of our brain, what it does, how it does it. So for people to blow off certain addictions is kind of ignorant. If we don't know how most of our organ works, how can we say an addiction doesn't exist when the brain is the center for addictions? Sadly, sugar and opiate addiction go hand in hand, and Trish is a shining example of that. It's too bad. So, just remember, intake of opiates becomes dependence, turns into an addiction. The opiate receptors or the mu receptors cause an increase in sugar consumption and the sugar rush because it causes the dopamine rush. The brain is rewired, sometimes permanently, due to the alteration of the neurochemical pathways. And there's our dopamine guy. He's feeling happy. Our feel-good chemical, yeah. The other two that are important are serotonin or epinephrine. Everybody's heard of serotonin. It's nothing to mess with. Methadone causes increased sugar consumption, but Suboxone doesn't. Those are the main points of this TED Talk. Toodles.